So before we start, there are two things that I need to say. The first thing is that while I do a lot of complaining in the video, I don't want to direct the complaining towards anyone in particular. It's more a complaint about the Speedcore Network album itself rather than any of the artists or Speedcore Network. The second thing is that I was not able to get a timer on the screen for this recording because the software decided to be a bit buggy with me, so instead I used DuckDuckGo's timer. Let's just get into the door. Oh, also, is it DAW or DAW? Go argue in the comments section or something. So I'm going to start by turning the project tempo to 340, and then I will make the first kick with an EQ peak, as well as a low cut, then distortion, then a similar EQ, and another distortion. As you can see, I boost the bass here, and this is because the speedcore kick usually has a more overdriven tone than a distorted tone, which is different to raw style. So by boosting the bass, it gives it that overdriven tail which a lot of speedcore kicks have. After that, I limit it and then just add a bit of dynamic to make that punch a bit punchier. Now I'm going to save it. Now the other two kicks have the same process as the first one, so I'm going to use the time that I make the other kicks to talk about why I made this track. So the Speedcore Network album was released about a week ago, and I was honestly quite disappointed with it. A lot of the tracks seemed quite low quality. Most of them didn't have any mixing or mastering at all, and they just seemed quite low effort. There were a few good tracks on the album. The one that comes to mind is the last track on the album, which is by Hybrid Death. It's Disorientation. That was definitely the best track on the album by a very long way. Most of the other tracks come absolutely nowhere near the quality of that one. Other tracks that come to mind that are decent, actually I can't really think of any, because a lot of those, or pretty much almost all of them, are just really not that good. Yeah, so anyway, back to the kicks. This is the second or third kick. I think it's the third one. And this one I never actually ended up using. I actually don't know why I didn't use it in the end, but yeah, I didn't use it. It's supposed to be just a really bassy kick. Something like Drop 'Em Down by Malice and Disturb, that kind of kick, with the really buzzy tail. So now I'm going to make the actual project. First I import all the kicks, and I make the intro. That's one thing I do see a lot of speedcore tracks missing, which is an intro. An intro is important because it allows the DJ to mix tracks together more easily, because you can just transition these kicks into the kicks of the next track. I know that some Diabara tracks had it. Apart from that, I actually can't think of any, because a lot of speedcore tracks don't really use this. I'm not really sure why, actually, because I think it's really important. So here's the lead. It's super basic saw lead. It's literally just 2 saw oscillators detuned. And then I will make the melody. To save time, I tried to play the melody on my MIDI keyboard, but it didn't go as well as I planned, as you can see. So much quantizing. I ended up deleting most of it because I couldn't be bothered to quantize the whole thing. And I also changed the melody a bit. It's inspired by Butterfly by Ophidian, because it was really the first thing that I could think of that would work as a melody. Now I think I'm making the pad, or chords. Yeah, no pads. Not enough time to make those, because pads are super complicated. Made a super simple chords, detuned saws again. I'm not sure what I did the first time I was entering those chords in. And then adding more variation as well as duplicating the root note. But it's just a triad, just the most basic type of chord. Because in this limited amount of time, there wouldn't be enough time to play around with different notes to add into the chords. So now I'm going to make the break part just after the intro with just an automation on the filter cutoff to make the melody more plucky, and then I automate it upwards so that it transitions into the full lead sound. Now I'm going to very slightly mix this with pretty much just EQ compression and a bit of reverb. Funnily enough, that's probably still more than some of the tracks on the album. 16 voices. Because without many layers, you need more voices to create a fuller sound. Okay, now there's the snare build up with only snares, because not enough time, and also it's all you really need. Now I make the first drop. The first drop's going to be just kicks. A lot of speedcore tracks have that, where they just have kicks. I'm not sure why. But the thing with screeches is that it takes so long to process them because it's a really complex sound, and it's really easy to get those wrong, which I probably would do if I'm rushing, so I just didn't bother. And now the second half of the drop with kick change. But yeah, the kick rolls were strange. Yeah, the kick rolls in speedcore, I'd say, are kind of weird. I can't really describe them, actually. Because sometimes you just have a really basic kick roll, like you double the second kick. But other times, they can be super complicated. So I just decided to use raw style kick rolls instead, because I'm not going to take the time to learn speedcore kick rolls just for one video. Although maybe I might make more tracks, more speedcore tracks. Not really sure. So I decided to do a kick change in the climax, because otherwise it would have just dragged on for ages with just the same melody and same kick. Although a lot of tracks a lot of speedcore tracks are quite repetitive. So maybe I could have stayed with the one kick. And then here we go, adding a melodic fill halfway through the first drop. I think melodic fills can be pretty nice sometimes, but other times they don't work. Okay, now here I'm routing the kicks to mixer tracks. I think I just low cut them to remove any of that muddy sub. Yeah. And then a transient processor. I think that was, or maybe it was a compressor. Just make the kicks slightly more punchy, as well as mixing it with the leads. I missed what it was again. Okay, now I'm reducing the volume a bit to prepare the track for the mastering stage. Just cutting the side frequencies, the sub-side frequencies, because these really mess up the mix a lot, especially if you're playing it on mono. So first I do put a little bit of mastering, but very minimal mastering, with only a limiter. Normally I would put a compressor and an EQ as well. Now here I did actually forget to mix the snare and crash, so I returned to that here. Quite a big boost in the lower parts of the snare there, because the snare I was using was too high end. So I decided to just change that. And now I decided the track was too short, so I added another drop. This is just the outro drop. It looks like I'm just going to be copying and pasting the first drop actually. And then the outro. So I save the project and export.